Welcome to Linda's Corner. My name is Linda Bjork. Today we're going to talk about something that is very important in our nation today and is affecting everybody, and that is the effects on education during this coronavirus pandemic. Schools have closed, and suddenly teachers, students, and parents have been thrust into a very unusual and challenging situation. And I'm so grateful to have my friend Belinda Durling here with me today to talk about this important issue. Belinda has been working in education for over 24 years, and she has the unique perspective of having experience both in the classroom and as an administrator. She has served as the director of a charter school that includes students from kindergarten through 9th grade for several years. And then she decided to go back to the classroom, where she's currently teaching 1st grade. And she is very happy and satisfied to be there. Belinda is absolutely in tune with the current situation. And today we're going to discuss some of the challenges of the transition from a classroom setting to distance learning. So let's talk about distance learning. Do you think that we should be doing distance learning now while the world is in stress?
I think we should be, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Should we talk about some of the arguments for and against? I know this is a hard thing. For me personally, my education experience, I did teach at a charter school, but most of my experience, like 20 years, was homeschool. But it was something that I chose to do.
Right.
And right now, the entire nation, probably the entire world, has been thrust in a situation
Yes.
where they have to do this with no desire, no preparation, no anything.
Absolutely.
And it's hard.
It's very
it's
hard.
a hard thing.
Yes.
So some of the things that we hear against distance learning is by expecting kids to do work while they're away from school, we're creating a bigger gap between those who have good support and those who don't.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying that because some kids have parents who are trying to work, some kids don't have access to computers and no one to help them, that we shouldn't even try to expect anybody to do anything, that we should just let everybody take a break and not try to do anything. But I have to say, I think that if we don't do anything, we're going to be creating a bigger gap. Because no matter what, we're going to have those parents who are doing it. And even if the teachers give no direction, they'll find ways to give their kids educational support and work with their kids. Whereas those who would like to do something but don't know what to do will be lost and will not do anything. And so that creates an unfair opportunity to people who would like the opportunity and can't.
So what I'm hearing from that then is the idea of having a teacher-supported, a structure where you don't have to try to make up your own curriculum, but
Exactly.
there's something that's there that's an opportunity.
Exactly.
I think that would be very beneficial because
Right.
if I were thrust in a situation where all of a sudden my kids can't go to school and I wasn't prepared for it, I wouldn't know what to do unless
Exactly.
I had that teacher
Exactly.
support. So,
And I think that there's a lot of people in that situation. There might be parents who are saying, I'm too busy, I've got a lot of work still to do, and I would just rather let my kids take a break. But I think there's also a lot of people who have not as much to do as they usually do. Their kids are having nothing to do but play video games or something, that's not, they know is not really productive, and they don't know what to do with their kids.
Right, for
So,
sure.
I know for me, I'm very busy right now trying to teach
Right.
online, but I have my kids at home, and so I'm trying to help them as well. And that's been challenging for me. And so I understand parents who are struggling with this balance between trying to work at home and trying to help their kids. But when I think about the alternative of not having my kids do anything, the stress in my mind would be worse, because I'd be thinking, what are they doing? I'd be going, what are you doing? And what are you doing? And I'd be worried about what they're doing with their time while I'm engaged in my work, where now they're sitting there with me doing their work, and they might need my help, and I might have to get away from my work a little bit and help them as much as I can. But at least I know they're right there and they're doing something productive. And then when they are done and they can't, I feel better about letting them have some free time. So that's me as a parent and how I feel about that. I also think along that same thinking with having this, they're talking about this unequal, this gap between those who are doing well in school and those who are not. That, of course, is a gap that all educators see in every classroom.
Oh,
you have
absolutely.
kids whose parents are very supportive and those who are not. And no matter what the circumstances, you're going to have that. And I think that we have to get over this idea in America that it's our job to make everybody equal. I think that just pulls everybody down. Our job really is to create equal opportunity.
Oh, I love that.
It's not to make everybody be equal, but give everybody the chance. So what if we have kids whose parents don't care what they're doing, but they want to be doing something?
Absolutely.
If they have a teacher who's sending them stuff, there's a chance for them to take their own responsibility.
Oh,
to
and that
rise
makes it a
out.
lifelong kind of a thing when you can learn something yourself rather than having somebody hand it to you. That's big. That's really big.
And I'm surely not all kids are going to do that. I mean, most kids need somebody who's watching over them, somebody to kind of push them and motivate them along the way. But the idea of giving an opportunity is that it's there if they want it. It's there if they're going to take it. And I think it's our duty, our responsibility as educators in this country to offer that to them.
Oh, I like that. Okay, perfect. So another concern that right now people are stressed and parents can't teach when they're stressed and kids can't learn, that there's just stress everywhere. So is there something that you can suggest to help calm that stress or to ease that worry? Or
yeah, and I think this is an important point that we all need to consider in this doing of this distant learning, because it is difficult. It is more difficult to do things when you're stressed, when parents are stressed and kids are stressed.
Absolutely.
But I think it's important to recognize that life always has its stresses. Life's always going to be hard. And this is a great opportunity for us to teach and show our kids how to handle when life is hard. And that moving forward is a really good way to handle stress. Having structure for the kids is so helpful when they are having difficulties, having some sameness, having some connection, with someone or something that can help them. I had a student just today who I got on video chat with, and she has struggled with having a lot of support at home. And I've been trying to do video chats with all these kids just to check in on them and see how they're doing. And I asked her if she had any questions, and she said no. And then she said, just one actually. And I said, what's that? And she said, I love you.
Oh,
and it was
how
so
wonderful.
sweet, but I could just see this look in her eyes that she missed school. She missed coming and having that structure that we have for her,
For sure.
And so being able to give her those connections and some things for her to do to make her feel still connected to it is helpful to her mental health.
I agree.
And I know at my house, there is a lot of stress. I mean, my son and I have had a lot of disagreements about the way that he should be doing his work.
Yeah,
and
that
he
could
says,
happen.
and I have to write to the teacher and say, he thinks this, and this is what I think. And so we get back from the teacher. And so, there's some stress in that. And he's been really stressed at moments. But I think stress is a normal and natural part of life. And it's our opportunity to help the kids learn how to work through that stress rather than just say, well, let me take this stress away from you.
Ooh.
Because I think when we say, let me take this stress away from you, we're actually sending an unintended message that we don't believe in them. And we don't believe that they can do hard things. And we don't believe that they should have to deal with hard things, when really we know they're going to have hard things their whole life. This is a global opportunity for us to teach them that and to help them move forward even in the difficult times.
Oh, that's fantastic. This is a life skill that's going to be
absolutely
far more important even than your basic reading,
definitely.
Writing, and arithmetic, because it is something that, like you say, applies to everything that you'll be doing the
right.
rest of your life, not just in your school years, but through your entire
Totally.
adult life.
Totally. And honestly, there's kids who come to school every day without a global pandemic who are dealing with more stress in their lives from their family situations or whatever might be happening in their lives
right.
every day. And they come to school and they're expected to work and learn. And teachers too. There's teachers who come to school and have the responsibility to teach kids every day who might be having their own personal trauma in their life. And we're taught as teachers, we got to fake it sometimes because we have a responsibility towards these kids. And that's hard. That's really hard. But it's an important skill, I think. And I think moving forward, and I do feel for the parents because I know the struggle that I'm having as a parent, and I'm a teacher. And I know
right.
a little bit more about what
right.
my kids are doing and how to help them maybe than some parents do. So I get it. It's hard and it's difficult. And I do think as teachers, we need to keep that in mind, be open to flexibility, checking in with kids and seeing how they're doing. Not being so stringent about what we're requiring, but more having this attitude of we're offering opportunities rather than we're sending expectations and you must get this done or else. And so I think as we do that, we can be more understanding. Or like I've had students who don't have printers, who don't have the resources they need, or they don't have books. And so I'm able to just say, hey, I'm trying to think of an exact situation. So one assignment that I'd given my students before all this happened was we called it a literature fair, and they were preparing to present a book that they had read to the class. And they were filling out these things, and they were going to come and present the book. And that was due on March 16th, which was the first day we didn't have school.
Oh, wow.
So I asked my students to videotape their presentation and put it up on Google Classroom for us to see it, or at least for me to see it. And the parents have had some of the parents have had so much trouble just knowing how to upload a video, right? And I had one, parent who finally wrote to me. I hadn't heard from her. I hadn't seen anything from her and her son. And she finally wrote to me and said, her and her husband are still trying to work full time. She's having to take the kids to work with her. They don't even have a computer. Her kids are having to use the Xbox to do their work, and she has no idea how to get the video up. And I have to be able to be flexible, open to that and flexible. Absolutely. Because they're going through a lot of stress, and she's trying to do what is best for her kid. And so I just Absolutely. Said, hey, she sent me a picture of what he did. And I just said, that's good enough. Thank you so much for doing this with him. So I think we do need to be flexible as teachers and recognize the struggle that it is for some people.
You gave some brilliant examples of your flexibility and adaptability, where you came up with a solution and then kind of sub-solutions. If A doesn't work, we're going to try B, and there's something that's going to work.
I feel like we, really as educators, we have to be able to do that.
In your school, do you have, like you said, the Google Classroom? Do you have those things
already in place? That is what we're using.
So are the students already familiar with things? Or?
Our school does use the G Suite Google Classroom, but in first grade, which is what I teach, we've never used it. Right. So this is our first experience with it. It's my first experience as a teacher, and it's the first experience for our students, although there are other teachers in our school who have used it. There's other siblings who have used it, so some are more familiar. So I am getting a lot of emails and doing a lot of tech support and sending a lot of calling up my own tech guys, trying to get it all fixed. So it's been super stressful. It's been really hard, but we're learning so much.
Wow.
And I'm very excited about some of the ways that I can use what I'm learning now in the future in my classroom. Something that I've been wanting to try to learn, but just haven't had the time. So this is forcing me into it. And I'm grateful for that.
That's awesome. You're able to find kind of a silver lining in this, learning some new skills and learning some new technologies and things that we'll be able to use in the future when the world gets back to normal.
There's a couple other things that are going out there around about why we shouldn't be trying to do distant learning. One thing that I've seen a lot is kind of an attitude of they're not really missing that much, so don't worry about it. The teachers will catch them up when they get back to school. And
how do you feel about that kind of a thought?
I feel like in general, parents and the general population don't really understand or know how important each day of school is.
Right.
Because if a kid comes home from school and the parents say, what did you learn in school today? They usually say, not much.
And that's pretty easy to duplicate at home, right?
Right. But what is not understood is how much the little things make a big difference.
Right.
And how much they build up and how important it is to keep that going. So when I worked as an administrator, I did a lot of data analysis. And one thing that was always so disheartening to see is how much kids drop over the summer in things like reading fluency, just basic math knowledge that they just forgot, right? Or didn't do. And a lot of people don't think of the things kids are learning at school as skills acquisition. They think more of it as knowledge acquisition. Like, what did you learn? You learned that Lewis and Clark led the expedition to explore the Louisiana Purchase, right?
Right.
Or even in math, you learned that 3 + 3 is 6. But they don't recognize that what we're really doing day after day at school is practicing our skills, especially in subjects like reading, math, writing. They have to practice. It's not enough to just say, okay, you've learned that 3 + 3 = 6, and you've seen use the manipulatives, and you've seen the different ways to show the number line or whatever. Absolutely. To show that 3 + 3 is 6. But if you don't practice it enough, then you don't have it mastered. And mastery is what they really, really need. They need to be practicing their math facts every day. They need to be practicing reading every day. They need to be practicing writing every day. Or especially, to me, first grade is so important for these crucial skills.
It's a foundation.
It's a foundation. And like for me, we've been working all year on learning the addition facts and doing all the different ways to analyze and see, like 9 plus 6 is just 1 less than 10 plus 6, right? So they can understand why it is what it is. And now we're just really getting to the point where we're working on really getting these in their brains, and they're getting faster at doing their math facts. And I was just getting so excited because my class was doing so well this year, and I thought we're gonna get all these first graders mastered on their addition facts, and then bam, we get sent off of school. And so my thought was, oh no, they're going to all lose it. They just didn't get the practice that they needed, right?
Oh, wow.
And so, and that is something that I'm sending home to the parents. Here's your resource. Here's what we are doing in class. I'd love for you to practice this with them every day. Some are doing it, some are not. But at least I'm offering that to them.
Right.
To have them try to do it. I'm not grading it on them, but I have explained to the parents why I feel like it's important. And I do feel like it's important because... And there's a lot of controversy in education about things like memorizing your math facts and being able to do them quickly.
Right.
But I think most educators agree that if they don't know their math facts when they get to higher level math, like long division or algebra,
everything down.
It takes them into cognitive overload if they don't know those basic facts.
So true.
If they're trying to think, okay, wait, what's
true.
9 plus 6, and they have to count it on their fingers and everything, then every step of that algorithm becomes painful.
That's very true.
But if they know all that, then just learning the new step is the only part that's tricky. So I just think people just don't know how important what all the kids do in school that kids don't even realize when they come home.
Right. What I love, well, everything you said I've loved, but I really appreciate the idea that it is skills acquisition and not just knowledge acquisition. Right. And that makes all of education seem so much more applicable beyond just your school years into your entire life.
Totally.
Because that's really what we want. We want people who are independent and protective members of society, and that they have the skills that they need to be successful in whatever it is that they want to do.
Sure. And if you think of skills acquisition in relation to like music or sports.
Absolutely.
It's not enough to know how to read the music on a song. You have to practice it to get it right. And the same thing with sports. You can know the correct way to swing a bat, but all baseball coaches will tell you that they drill it and they drill it and they drill it and they practice and they practice and they practice. And my son signed up for baseball this year. Now, of course, it's been canceled. And his coach is like, please practice with them, right? Because they don't want them to lose those skills. And it's the same thing with all the stuff that we're doing at school. They need to be practicing those skills and keeping them. And even if we're not talking about skills acquisition, there's a lot of concepts. Our programs are built around a 9-month school year. So if we have a math program that teaches 3/4 of the year and then they miss the concepts for the last
it's going to set everybody back for a long time.
Then the next year they're going to have holes, and they're not going to, do we set them back a whole year? Do we just fill in those holes? It becomes more challenging the next year.
Right.
So those are 2 reasons right there why I feel like this idea of they're not really missing that much is unfounded.
But I think you've made some excellent, valid points. I think it also validates the experience of education. But by just saying, oh, they're not missing that much, it's not that, almost says, well, then we shouldn't be sending them at all because they're not learning that much. When really, they are.
Exactly. There's a reason the school year goes longer than March. And there's a lot of things I still wanted to and needed to accomplish with my first graders. And I'm still hoping that I can at least give them as much of that as I can offer through distant learning.
Okay. So there is one other thought, and I know you mentioned it, that a lot of parents feel like they haven't been trained or teachers haven't been trained to teach online, and it's a lot of work to try to figure out what to do, and it's kind of an unfair burden on teachers to say, okay, learn a whole new skill set and learn it immediately and then put it into practice. Ready, set, go.
Yeah.
And
I am seeing that on the teacher blogs and Facebook group that I'm in, teachers complaining about that. And I did see a really funny meme that I was like, this is totally me. It said, I used to be a teacher, but now I'm a tech support by day and a YouTuber by night. And that's me. I mean, I'm literally spending my days on the computer helping my kids and then making videos and things by night to send content. I thought that was really funny. But the truth is, we as teachers were thrown into something that we don't know how to do, and we're being forced to do it. But like I said earlier, I'm grateful because I wanted to learn this stuff. I just never have had the time. Right. And I mean, the first week of this, I worked around the clock. I mean, I was up late at night trying to figure it out. We had 2 days that they gave us to, try to figure it out, get something up by Wednesday of that first week. And that was super challenging to try to sort through the barrage of resources out there. There's so many resources, but when you've never done any of them, you don't know what to even try.
Right.
And so that was the biggest thing. I just felt so overwhelmed by what do I do, And luckily I have great support of teachers at my school, and we're working together and we're splitting up the work. I'm doing certain subjects and they're doing certain subjects, and we're just, videotaping ourselves. And with first graders, they can't read.
Wow, that does add a whole new dimension.
Right.
You can't send them home with a packet because they can't do it.
And our school originally said, send an email each day letting them know what they're supposed to do. But I was like, my kids aren't going to read the email. I can send it to the parents. But I had one parent who wrote to me those first couple days saying, I've been trying to get my daughter to do some stuff for me, but she doesn't want to do anything for me. And sometimes parents get that. They have to hear from the teacher that this is what you're supposed to do. So what I've been doing is I've just been creating a daily video every day that says, okay, welcome to school, everybody. Here's what you're going to do. And I send that to my class every day. It's just a little video. Do you send it
as an email? Or how do you send it?
I put it up on Google Classroom.
And they're able to
access it from there. And then along with it, I send an email to the parents that just says, here's what's going on today. So I think that's been working out pretty good because the kids can see me telling them, here's what's expected. And they know it's coming from me and not their parents.
And that can be a big deal, especially when you're used to teachers tell me what to do for school, and parents tell me what to do. Like do your chores and brush your teeth, and that's the limit of their authority, I guess.
Well, and I think one of the best things that I came across actually before this happened, I listened to a few different education podcasts, and I listened to one where they had somebody from China who teaches at an international school in China who's been doing it for a while already, who came on and gave advice. And one of the best things that she said was, remember that it's not good for you to be on the computer all day, and it's not good for the kids to be on the computer all day. So try to give assignments that they can do away from the computer.
Oh, I like that.
And I thought that was really good advice. And so I've tried to do that. It has been hard because we've been making videos to teach the kids, because how do you teach them stuff without making videos? But we're trying to keep the videos short and then giving them assignments that they can do beyond that. So that's been really good. And then another thing, the advice I got from that was to not expect them to spend, they're in school for 7 hours, but don't expect them to be doing 7 hours worth of work, because at home that's just not going to happen.
No, it isn't.
So,
and because I have the perspective of doing homeschool, and when I started years ago, and I've had other parents who thought about starting, and then they thought, I could never do that. I'm not going to sit at my kitchen table for 7 hours or whatever. But it's very interesting when you're in that different environment where you have that smaller group. It doesn't take as much time.
No, because it doesn't.
I mean, when you have a class of 30 kids and you're trying to spend 5 minutes with each kid, it takes a long time. But if you have 3 kids, it's a lot easier to spend that 5 minutes. And so I don't think it needs to necessarily recreate the school experience at home. Right. And I think if parents can recognize that it's okay for them to have flexibility as well as the teacher's expectation to have some flexibility. Because I can imagine how many parents that this has just put them in panic. Like, what, now all of a sudden I'm a full-time school teacher? And if you have more than one school-age child, to this and this and this.
And computer access for all of them?
Yeah, hello. And especially if they're also supposed to be on the computer all day. So that's another excellent reason why the computer time should be short. Right. And I think for most kids, when we're home and we don't have those structure, the natural thing to do is to go to the computer for entertainment. Sure. So that means you're at school on the computer, and then your entertainment is on, and you're like screen time all day long.
Yeah. So. And my high schooler, I've been like, okay, it's time for you to get off the computer and go do something. And my husband's had him working on the truck. He's taken him to the Bishop Storehouse to do a service.
Well, that's brilliant.
And I had him helping me do some stop motion for my class because that's a hobby that he has. And so I tapped into that. And so we're finding creative ways to work together and do different things that he can help me with. So
smart.
Yeah, that's been really good.
Well done. Your kids are lucky. You have an excellent skill set that I guess if people don't already have it, we're learning it now.
Yeah.
Or at least we have the opportunity to.
That is exactly
All
right.
right. So let's see. You were going to explain some of how do you do distance learning. So we're in it, we're doing it, but can you give some advice to how to make it
Yeah, and I
successful?
think we've touched on a lot of this already. There's so many challenges like not enough computers, poor internet access, the libraries are closed.
Yeah.
Like I would love to be able to tell my first graders just read as much as you can. And that's another challenge with the computer because
and now it's whatever you have in your home is
Right.
what you've got.
And there are some families that just don't have a lot of books in their home. But there's so many great online resources for books. But again, it puts them on the computer. So
Well, when you're a first grader and you don't have books, I think
Right.
you just got to play
Yeah,
adapt. And if that's the
exactly.
best you can do, then let's
That's
use
good
that
enough.
resource.
Exactly. And that's exactly. So I've been trying to send resources. I know there's a lot of companies who are offering free services right now too. Like Audible has offered free audiobooks for kids right now,
that's
which
wonderful. I didn't know
is so
that.
great. And there's a website called Storyline Online where actors and actresses read picture books to kids. And so not only is it great reading, but it's showing the book up close so the kids can read along with.
Oh, that's nice.
And I really like that website. And there's a lot of different ones that have been coming to me. And it's been great to be able to discover some of these too.
So do you share those with your students? And let them know
yeah,
about that?
I let the parents know to go on Storyline Online. We have expectations of how many books they need to be reading regularly. And the term was just ending. So I told my families, if you haven't read enough books yet, go on to Storyline Online and just read some books with these actors and actresses to fill in your reading time. But at least that way they're doing that. But yeah, so libraries are closed.
Yeah, that's a
And
challenge.
there's been lots of technical difficulties. I get lots of emails from parents saying we weren't able to log on to Google Classroom today. And I'm having the challenge of I can't upload my videos from my house because my internet's just not efficient enough.
Oh, no.
And so I was going to the school and then it just got to where that's just such a long drive for me every time I need to upload a video. So I was like building up a bunch to upload and then going and uploading them. But one day I had to upload one that I had missed or something. Oh, I know I had gone to the school and I forgot my charging cord and my computer died before I got the last one uploaded.
Oh, shoot.
And so, these are challenges that we're all facing. And so I just thought, I wonder if I have a neighbor or somebody who has Wi-Fi that's fast enough that I can use. And then I thought of the church building. And I know that it has Wi-Fi. So I just went to the parking lot and sure enough, it uploaded just like that.
Wow. Well, that's
Just sit in the
creatively
parking
using your resources.
Right. And that's
like
what
we're
we
an
have
internet
to do.
cafe
Yeah.
or whatever, if we're going to drive by and make it work and bring your
Yeah.
laptop.
And I actually
play adapt. Well
used the
done.
word resourceful with one of my students when I talked to her online this week on a FaceTime chat. I just said, well, now's the time for us to be, she didn't have the book that she needed at home or the packet that we had done for some reason. And so she'd just written it on a piece of paper and she showed it to me. And I said, this is a great time in life to be resourceful. And I'm
Excellent.
totally great with how you did that, And then I told her what resourceful meant. It means using what you have and just making the best of it. And that's what we're all having to do right now, right?
Absolutely. There
Yeah.
really isn't any other choice. The other choice you mentioned at the beginning was that option of just forget about it and don't do anything.
Right.
Versus let's roll up our sleeves and do what we can.
Right.
So we're not going to make excuses. We're going to do what we can.
Yes. And one thought I had last night is that for the students who don't have a lot of support, I think it's great to share stories of famous people who brought themselves out of bad situations, being resourceful and taking their own responsibility for their lives. For example, Frederick Douglass, who as a slave was not allowed to learn how to read, wasn't allowed to learn. And he would trade food to the boys on their way to school to give them reading lessons. That's resourceful.
Very.
He could have said, well, I'm not allowed to learn how to read, so I guess I'm stuck in this situation forever, but he recognized, and I think he even overheard people, if I remember right, it's been a long time since I read the narrative of Frederick Douglass, but if I remember, he overheard people saying, we can't ever teach the slaves how to read because that would be their
It would ruin
it would ruin us. We would lose our slaves, right?
Exactly.
And I think he overheard that and thought, I got to learn how to read. And so he, as a child and a slave with very little resources, became very resourceful and figured out how to make his life better. He had food to eat, so he would trade that to boys to teach them how to read. And boys who were allowed to go to school and probably didn't appreciate it as much.
Exactly. And probably didn't appreciate it as much. And when he lifted himself, he also lifted other people and became an inspiration
and
he's still an inspiration, and he's been gone for so long.
Right. And so I think this is a great time for us to inspire kids with heroes like that. Some other examples are Chris Gardner, the movie The Pursuit of Happiness.
Oh, I love that
He
movie.
was in such dire straits, and he just really worked hard to pull himself out of that. And he took full responsibility. He didn't make excuses for his situation and what was hard or give up because of it. He knew that he needed to do something, and he did what he could. And as a result, he was successful. So I think that now's a great time for us to share that
opportunity to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And I think it's also important, and you've mentioned it is hard, and I think it is absolutely okay. In fact, it would be a disservice not to say what we're doing is hard.
Absolutely.
To say, oh, come on, guys, it's not that hard.
Right.
No, it is. This is hard.
It is hard.
This is
we
hard.
need to validate
this is hard
that
for everybody, and we validate that. We understand that, and if we're not doing a perfect job, that's okay too. But we're giving it our best effort, and our best effort is going to be enough.
Definitely.
It has to be.
Yeah. And actually, it's another great opportunity for us as teachers, going back to the idea that as teachers don't know what we're doing, to show the kids that it's okay to not know what you're doing and to move forward. Because I've been doing that. I've been saying, oh, I'm still learning this. I forgot that. I forgot this. I'm not really sure how I'm going to have you do that yet. Because kids are asking questions like, how do we get you this assignment? And all I can say is, I haven't figured that out yet. And it's okay.
Changes dynamics a lot. Where the educational model of you have the teacup and you pour a little into the little teacups, and I know everything, and I'm going to fill up your little things. It's changing it into adults can learn too.
Absolutely.
And that can be a lifelong thing. Again, not once graduation's done, we just shut that part of our lives off. So I love what you said. I recently watched the movie Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood about Mr. Rogers.
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet.
And there's a little scene in there where he's trying to put up a tent and it doesn't work. And he said, yeah, I like it. Keep that, because I think kids need to know that grown-ups, it doesn't all come easy for them, and that we have to learn and that we have to struggle too. And I thought that was kind of a beautiful moment where it's okay. Just because we're a grown-up, or just because you're a teacher, or just because you're a parent, doesn't mean that we have to know all the answers.
Totally.
Because if we're expected, or we think we're expected to know all the answers, that's really, really stressful. And especially in this time where nobody knows all the answers. So it's just, anyway, that's really cool. Excellent thought. Beautiful. Okay. Do you have any advice for parents at all?
Take a deep breath.
I think
we just need to take a deep breath.
Like that.
And when our kids are having meltdowns, teach them to take a deep breath and say, it's okay. This is hard. Again, like you said, validate that it's hard.
Right.
But I just don't think let's not take away the hard. Let's help them through it. And I think
I love that attitude so much.
And I think as we do it,
people,
as we are helping our kids do it, it helps us go through the hard too.
Right.
I can't imagine if I didn't have, I'm sure I could think of plenty of things to do if I didn't have to do my schoolwork or try to put distance learning on there. I always like having a day off.
Right.
Because as
everybody is excited to have a day off. It's just turning into day after day after day, and we're getting a little lost.
But if I had been cut off from my class and sent home with nothing to do, I think that would have a lot of potential to put me into some depression about my purpose in life. And especially today we had a staff meeting, and we have a lot of paraprofessionals who don't have a lot to do right now. And they were saying the state is telling us we absolutely cannot we have to pay you all. We have to keep you all working. So if you need something to do, please let us know. We'll get you on some projects. Because the state's getting overwhelmed with people applying for unemployment right now, because there are people who legitimately cannot pay their employees.
Right.
But in this case, the state's saying, keep paying your employees. We don't want to put them on unemployment. And so if I was getting paid and I wasn't doing anything, that would be hard for me.
Right.
You know, I would feel like I need to be doing something. And so,
Well, and I love your comment about having purpose.
Yeah,
and I think having the distance learning gives some purpose and direction for families,
Yeah.
for the students, for the parents,
and the students
for the
need purpose
teachers. It gives us some purpose. And I think personally having some purpose helps us get through the tough times easier than just sitting there and
Definitely.
I don't know, trying to entertain ourselves or just wish it would all go away.
And if you can't keep up with it all, I think that's another really important thing to remember, to take a deep breath. I think sometimes we all think that we have to do everything and we all have to become astrophysicists, or whatever. We all have to be perfect in every area.
Right.
And I think in school especially, this has become really hard. Parents who think their kids have to always get straight A's all the time, even if it's a struggle for them. And that's something that I had to come to terms with some of my kids too, and realize, academics really isn't their thing. My one son, he's so good with his hands. He fixes things. And I had to let go of this idea that he's going to go to college, he needs to become an engineer, he needs to, but let go and say, hey, what he really wants to do is be a welder. And he doesn't have to get straight A's in high school to do that.
Right.
And enough is enough. Like if he's passing his classes, great, I'm proud of him and I can do that. And so again, this idea of just taking us back to what we talked about in the beginning, people saying that if by doing this we're causing inequalities. Life is all about differences. We all need to be different. We all have different circumstances and different things. That school is going to be a lot harder for some kids. For some kids, it's so hard to go to school, it's going to be even harder for them to sit at the table and do it when they don't have school.
Right.
And so, do what you think you can with your kids. Try to get some perspective about, do they need to be a straight A student or not? And know that if they do have the potential and they do have the desire to become an astrophysicist or
that's great.
That's so great. And know that then it is vital for them to be doing whatever they can right now to keep up with their studies. So, making your choices.
I think it'll help everybody. Doing what you can and working forward on all of that. And I love your idea that there's really more than one right way to do things.
Yes.
Like if your son has different interests and different strengths, to validate and appreciate and recognize his strengths rather than trying to cut him down and saying, you are not academic enough.
Right.
And I think probably as every parent, we've had to do our expectations.
Yes.
For me, I was the straight A. If it's not an A, it's a failure. Mm-hmm. And my kids are not all that way. And it's just take a deep breath and it is okay. It is okay that they're not
their
perfect.
Their value is not based on their grades.
Exactly.
Or what they do and don't do in their lives, but rather we support them and love them in what they want to do and try to recognize what their strengths and weaknesses are. And so there might be some people during this time who this is a great opportunity, like in my son's case, for my husband to spend some time with my son, teaching him how to fix the car.
Oh, talk about a valuable education.
That's a really...
Anybody who has a car is going to have some car problems.
And his schooling is not taking as long. So there is more time. So he can still do his schooling, do the basics on his schooling, keeping up with what he needs to do to graduate, and do that as well. So
that is amazing. Okay, so our takeaway, at least I'm getting, is let's do the best we can. This is important. What we're doing matters. What teachers are doing matters. What parents are doing matters. What students are doing matters.
And it is hard.
It is hard. And take a deep breath. You're not expected to be perfect. Just do the best you can. And it's going to be okay. You're doing it. You can do hard things. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're doing it.
Yes.
So it's awesome. In closing, I would like to share a quote from Zig Ziglar. It says, if you are not willing to learn, no one can help you. If you are determined to learn, no one can stop you. So don't let this circumstance stop you. There is a way, and we have confidence in you that you can do it, and it's important. Thank you. We'll see you next time on Linda's Corner.